finish grading your tests together. So you're going to give yourselves the final feedback on this. But what you need to do right now is with those 2 sheet protectors, I'm bringing around new notes for the new chapter. You can organize your binder however you want, as long as you can explain it to me. You can say notes are here, homework is there.
To the office. Nate, please come to the Perry office. Thank you.
So, part of what we'll be getting into this chapter is graphs and graphing. So, obviously the front page talks about what it takes for a graph to be a complete graph. And if you're on a homework and you're asked about x-intercept or y-intercept or things like that, you can go check your graph and see, or you can check your math notes and see what all that stuff means. You got an example of a table there, a couple tables really. You guys are got anyone get missed? You don't get forgotten about. Remember, these are going into 2 separate page protectors. 2 separate page protectors. Try to keep them in the order that you got them. And then this is fun because my papers are alphabetical, but you guys are not. So I'm going to go back to here so as people start asking, wait, there's no grade, if I can point at the screen.
He has thought 5 steps ahead. He is playing 5 beat chess.
I don't know about that.
Only 5 beat chess? That's insulting me.
So the announcement that a lot of you missed when I stood up and just pretty much said it at regular talking level is the amount of time you will have to work on test corrections is directly going to relate to how quickly we can get through what we need to get through, which our start wasted about 2 minutes at least. Because I was just still continuing on with my homework for tonight, waiting for you guys, but I realized I didn't think that was going to work. I needed to get up and do something. So as you're looking at your test feedback, ask yourselves those questions that we talked about yesterday of like, did you try your hardest on your homework this chapter? Did you ask questions when you didn't know how to solve something? Did you check answers in Schoology or like CPM homework help or when we checked them at the beginning of class? Or, I don't know, that might have been all of the options to check answers. Anybody not get their test back? I believe I just... Do you still have yours in your binder?
No.
Oh, you turned it back in yesterday, but I was already gone. My bad, dude. So I will still need to grade yours. I forgot to check the bins when I came back last night. Sorry, man. So we are going to start by all flipping to the very back page. And we're all going to start by also getting out a piece of graph paper if you don't have one. Because, guys, I shouldn't have to put it on the start slide. You always need graph paper. You are always going to need graph paper. So if you don't have graph paper, get it. And then we're all going to head it together.
Get it and head it.
All right, so I keep trying to say chapter 2, but really what I made the test say was like unit 1, right? Did I make the test say unit 1? Yeah, so really, yeah, it's because it was more than just chapter 2. So really we should probably make our header unit 1 mastery revisions. Unit 1 mastery revisions. Now, if you choose not to do this right now, you're choosing to do it later. I'm not going to redirect you. You're not going to be in trouble, except for with yourself when you have to do it later. Like the header, just unit 1 mastery revisions. Yeah, revisions is a bit tricky to spell. Hey, Rin, how do I do my mastery corrections?
You always go, it always goes on a piece of graph paper and it gets stapled to the front of the test.
Hey, Liam, how do we do test corrections?
Always on graph paper and it gets stapled to the front of your test. I just memorized, I'm not even looking at the board.
Hey, Zach, how do we do test corrections?
Put out a piece of graph paper and you staple it to the front of your test.
Hey, Lucy, how do we do test corrections?
On a piece of graph paper and you staple it to the front of the test.
You've literally heard it 4 times from every corner of the classroom. Test corrections go on graph paper. You never erase your wrong answers. Wrong answers are a good thing. Wrong answers are where I give feedback, and then if you erase that, 1, my feedback was a waste of time, so why did I do that to begin with? And 2, then it makes it look like your new answer is wrong. Right? If I have an X and you erase that wrong answer and you write the right answer there next to the X, that's silly. So where do test corrections go? On graph paper. Which is why we just made a header. Now some of us might not have any revisions to do. Some of us might have gotten everything right, but I am not sure because I ran out of time. And actually, I can tell from the front page, because I got all my documentation for the front page, literally nobody has every question done and right from the front page. Literally everybody made at least one mistake. Which tells me maybe we bit off a bit more than we could chew right now. But we're going to practice these problems from the back. My advice, maybe, would be just go ahead and do these on your graph paper. Hey, Colin, throw that away. Maybe just go ahead and do these on your graph paper so you've got them in case you need to revise your answers. You already have the revision, right? Wouldn't that make sense? Instead of like waiting to get to the answer and then realizing you have to do the revision? Yes?
If I didn't finish the test and there were 10 question marks
Yeah.
you put on the test, do I have to...
If you didn't finish the test, we're working on it together right now. Like, you can just copy this stuff down right now. Like, it's okay that you didn't get finished. The back, like, we're going to do the back together right now. I'm going to...
Do I put it on my graph paper or do I...
You could put it on your test paper, but I don't actually think there's enough space. Like, I thought I left enough space, and then it printed out, and then I made my answer key, and I was like, oh, snap. There's not as much space here as I thought. So that's why, like, on the test, it says, right, I hope it says, feel free to use graph paper. Yeah, like, you're always welcome to use graph paper for these problems. So if you're following my advice and doing this on graph paper, I would rewrite the original equation, because the original equation is not on your graph paper. And when I rewrite it, I'm manipulating it a tiny bit, because instead of putting minus 3x, I'm going to put negative 3x. Now, some of you are in your head saying, like, well, we could go ahead and put the x's together. You're right. I just don't skip steps. I just do not skip steps. Now, this is where we all started to trip. Like a little bit of the sidewalk sticking up, but we weren't picking up our feet. That minus in front of the 2x plus 9, what's that do? What's that tell us? Like, so? It means the opposite of 2x and the opposite of 9. So not just the opposite of 2x, but the opposite of both of them. How we could show that is an arrow that what property, anyone remember the name of the property that has us draw the arrows and split up the multiplication? Distributive property. All right, so now we can go ahead and add the 5x and negative 3x. What do we get? 2x plus 2 still. I would if I was you. Unless you really want to wait and do it on your own, but some of you might.
Well, wait, what did you say? Like, nobody got any one of them right?
I don't know because I didn't have time to grade it.
Okay, that's
Literally, I did not get a chance to grade 11. Although a lot of people didn't get it done. So I do know that because I looked at everyone's backs, but I didn't. Like, I got the first 3 pages graded, right? The final page, none of you got graded. I ran out of time, took care of a couple student issues today during school. Like, guys, I gave up my planning period to, like, help out a couple student issues. I haven't graded any papers today. I've given up my time to do other stuff. So, negative 2x and negative 9. And this is where we start to get into some dangerous territory. 2x plus 2 equals, what's 7 and a negative 9? Negative 2 and negative 2x. Guys, I looked at your work. I didn't have time to give the feedback, but like, how do we get rid of a negative x value? Lucy?
We add 2 and 2x to both sides.
Yeah, so I'm going to just do one step at a time, right? So I'm going to add 2x on both sides. And guys, some of you forgot to do the addition over on the other side. Like you wrote it, and then you forgot to do it. So this should become 4x plus 2 equals negative 2. Now be careful, because one of the things you had, I don't know if you spoke too quickly, but if I add 2, like if I add like a regular 2, I totally wipe out the right-hand side. So I don't know if adding, I could, like I'm allowed, I just don't know if that's the best decision. Talk with your teammate about how to finish this out. Take 30 seconds while I get a drink and then we'll...
He accidentally started erasing my own answers, and then I put it back in his
So plus minus 2. So you would need something that was equal to negative 4. So negative
Well, yeah,
and it's the circle wall.
start.
Yeah.
What?
Or
Yep, that's fine.
so you would need
What? I should get random cards. What should I do in this step, Nick?
So, after doing that, I personally would add 2 to both sides
Okay.
to make it 4x plus 4 equals 0.
So if we add 2 to both sides, like I'll follow your directions. I disagree. It's not wrong. I just disagree.
Yeah,
4x plus 4 equals nothing. Okay, you can keep going if you want.
So then I would divide both sides by 4.
Okay. 0 divided by 4 feels like an interesting thing. So, crap. So x plus 1
Yeah, and then,
equals still 0.
and then I can just remove 1 from both sides.
What do you mean remove 1? I don't have any 1s over here.
Well, you make it negative 1.
Ah, so if we take away 1 from both sides, we now get x is equal to negative 1. Now, even though I disagreed with Nick, he got the right answer. I don't have to, like, we don't have to drive the same route, right? Nick's like, forget you, I'm taking the scenic route, right? I want to look at these pretty trees and leaves, and I'm like, I just want to get there. So, hey, hold up, put it out for a second. Because we got to get through a lot of problems today. My route would have been subtract 2 from both sides, because this plus 2, if I subtract 2, I could get to 4x equals negative 4, and then we could divide, but I'll get the same answer. So it's not right versus wrong. Right? It's just how efficient you want to be. Sometimes we take the scenic route and see some extra stuff. Questions. I don't want answers or comments. Questions.
if I'm doing corrections on the graph paper, can I just start where I made the mistake, or do I have to rewrite the whole
You
question?
should probably start back at the beginning just for the practice, and so I can see all the work getting there.
Okay. Yeah.
And because most of the time when you're doing revisions, it won't be because I did them for you. You'll be doing them on your own. So you won't know exactly where the mistake was unless I mark exactly what it was. Most of the time I draw an arrow at the step, and I say like, hey, this step is now wrong. Like, figure out what you did. Guys, you learn more from figuring out your own mistakes than if somebody tells you what you did. Right? You learn more from figuring out your own mistakes. All right, so for B's slightly easier. There's no distribution, right? So if I have 4x minus 7, now some of you guys probably got this right. Most of you probably got this right. There are 4 ways to start. Actually, more than that, but there are 4 good ways to start. Adele, how would you start?
I would start by subtracting 2x from both sides.
Yeah, if we subtract the smaller x, which was the advice that Hudson gave when we learned this, we now have 2x minus 7 equals negative 10. Or we could have said 2x and negative 7. Leah, what would you do now?
Add 7 to each side.
Add 7 to both sides, which is where some of us forgot to actually do the addition. So 2x. Hey guys, a lot of you, I wrote down check signs. A lot of you tripped up with positive, negative signs. This is a negative 10 plus 7. What do I get? Negative 3. Are you trying to give me the next step?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, but I'm mainly using cards, but go ahead.
Are we allowed to divide by 2 even though it's going to go to like a decimal? Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. What, are we allowed to use decimals?
Yes.
Are we allowed to use fractions?
Yeah.
So are we allowed to do the division?
Yeah.
And even if it turned into an even uglier number, like a repeating decimal, or a not repeating, not terminating decimal, like pi is not repeating, not terminating, are we allowed? Yes. We can do anything we want. Now we might do it and be like, oh, that sucks, never mind. Like you can do a step and then decide you don't want to do that step. You know, if you open the basement door and decide that's too scary, you can still go back.
Me all the time.
Guys, it never goes away. Oh, woke up in the middle of the night and there was some like loud noise in my garage. I got super freaked out. Then I realized my air compressor had turned itself back on because I didn't turn it off. I felt like somebody had broken into my house and was like doing something.
Whenever my dad tells me to go down to the basement to go grab something for him, I bring down my metal baseball bat with me.
I mean, hopefully there's no perpetrators. Questions on B. Questions on B.
Are we allowed to like
On
mark
B?
some highlighters?
What's it on? What? Okay, what about it? I prefer, that's actually a great question. I prefer that when you're turning in like graph paper for revisions, that you just use the fronts. And the reason is as soon as I start writing on your graph paper with my pens, bleeds through.
Oh.
So even though on regular computer paper I can write on it and we can do both sides, graph paper bleeds through too fast. So if you run out of space on this first sheet of graph paper, please grab another one. C and D are tricky like A was. Yeah, no?
Are we allowed to like go back on the test and put a check next to it?
Yeah, so if you had those right on the test, you can go ahead and check them off for yourself.
If we just did them, what if I forgot the
But then
opposite?
I know we did them together in
What if I
class.
just put the negative sign on it?
Well, a whole bridge collapsed because somebody forgot a negative. So do you think it matters?
Wait, what? Actually?
It mattered, yeah. The Tacoma Narrows Bridge literally tore itself apart because the engineer missed the negative.
Can you show us?
If we get through class, there is a video. But if we get through class, start C on your own.
Were people on it?
Start C on your own. No, it took so long they got off. Like literally it just started swaying and people were like, forget this, we're out. And then like minutes later, it
I
collapsed.
think that's where was the bridge?
I forget, but it's called the Tacoma Narrows Bridge because it is one of my favorite math stories about signs mattering. But think about it, if you miss a negative up here and do this much more math, everything's wrong. Right? All of this is wrong. It might look right, but so guys, when I'm copying this down, if I forget this negative, everything I write is wrong, right? Because it's not the beginning problem. That's what happened to that bridge. Get a head start on me. I'm not going to talk through this. I'm just going to write my steps. And then if you have a question, let's ask those questions. Just to warn you, since we're doing this together, there will likely be a separate assignment called a follow-up that we just do like as homework some night. But if you aren't understanding what we're doing, You need to ask your partner. You need to come ask me. You need to take your homework more seriously. Like something. You got to do something. Because if this doesn't make sense, we got to get it to make sense. That x became positive because the opposite of negative x is positive. Done. Why am I done? Lucy?
Because
Card's
there's no
actually next
solution.
to me. What?
Because there's no solution.
Why?
Because well, 5 like
You don't watch what I'm doing.
because 5x plus 3. If you remove both the 5x's, it literally just says 3 equals negative 1, and that doesn't mathematically make sense. So the answer is no solution.
Few of you called me over during the test. You just thought that I was bad at making tests, which I mean, sure, I might be. But this was one of these special cases we talked about in class. Does your age in 3 years equal your age 1 year ago? What? No. Like that's effectively what this is saying. Something plus 3 equals something minus 1. That can't be true. So no solution. In D, we got to distribute that negative again. Again, that x is going to become positive. Any questions up to that point? Well, no one's done yet. We distributed the opposite. The 5 became negative. The x became positive. Added like terms. Guys, the reason I'm not walking on the room and double checking what kids are doing is if you choose not to do this right now, you're choosing to do it later. Like, up to you. Violet, what would be the best next step? Or it could be any next step, but throws them the best. Add x. Yeah, if we have negative x values, we want to get rid of those. Guys, I looked at these because I was trying to figure out, do we know what we're doing? And know that I'm always laughing with you, because if you can't laugh at yourself, like, we got to fix that first. So I'm never laughing at you, I'm laughing with you. How do I get rid of a negative 5? Add 5. What's 10 plus 5?
15.
These are like, got some of you wrote 5 here. Like it's the silly mistakes that you're focusing on the hard math, and the easier math is what might trip you up. Guys, a few of you put that 5 plus 3 equals 7. And I wrote on your paper 5 plus 3 question mark, like, and I drew, because you meant to put 8, and like, I get it, I know what you did, but it's still wrong. It's my phone. It's probably somebody who wants to buy my house. It's always somebody who wants to buy your house.
Oh my gosh, my dad got it.
No. That too.
When we lived in that apartment, they asked us if we wanted to sell our house.
Now what I've started doing is just picking it up and then just setting it on my desk and wasting their time.
Yes! Yes!
Alright, what's 15 divided by 5?
3.
That's not worth getting upset about. All right, questions on 11. If you got all 4 of those right and done on your own, that deserves a big old pat on the back.
I got 75%. Yeah.
Save.
Hey.
All right, we have
Above average.
we have about 15 minutes left, and we got 3 more questions to check, and the rest of that time is for you to do whatever revisions you need to do. Okay, so let's get through this. Now, most of you had 12 done. That's not a highlighter. Julian is, guys. Some of us that did this did it backwards. I didn't have time to give you feedback, but I looked at it. When I grade, it's weird. I go through and I look at everyone's papers first, and then I go through and I grade them blind. Like I don't pay attention to your name, and I just give feedback and whatever. Then I go back and know who you are, and I look at your whole test, and then try to figure out did you master it or not. Grading at Phoenix is complicated, but Julian is. Some of you did not realize that is a J equals statement. Julian is. That's J equals.
I put J height.
How then do I write 3 inches less than twice Maureen's height? Guys, not many of us. This is not that symbol. This is not a less than symbol, right? This is a comparison. This is a comparison. So first thing I need to write is twice Maureen's height. So how do I do that?
M times 2, or just M2, 2M.
Yeah, 2m is better than m times 2, so 2m, and you can put the multiplication dot or not, and then 3 inches less than that, minus 3. Julian is 3 inches less than twice Maureen's height. No? Sure. When we start, it would be like this, but then we know the 32, so sure, that would be fine. So now, Adele said, is it fine if I went ahead and plugged in the 32? Sure, yeah. What do I do first, multiply or subtract? Multiply. Some of you forgot about that on the front. 64 minus 3, so 61 inches. No naked numbers. Questions? You got it right. Why tomatoes? Zach?
Okay, so 1 mile is 528 feet, so
500 what?
5,280 feet.
Wait, it's what now?
5,280 feet is 1 mile.
Okay.
So 5 to
Yeah, it's almost easier than even saying the actual number, right? If you write down just 5280, because you tripped over that number about 3 times before you said it right. 5,280 feet in a mile, 5280. So if there are 12 miles, F becomes 5 tomatoes times 12. And what do you get?
Whatever the
What did you guys get?
6,336.
Feet.
Yo, I did it right.
Feet.
Yep.
Then how would you put an M at the end of 5?
Hey, I got it right. Let's go.
Well, this would be feet equals 1 mile, right? That would be labeled feet on some label.
Then F
In my equation, I said 5.
So here, this is my M, right? So Val, what you're saying is right, but my M, instead of using M, now we're using M is 12. So instead of putting M, we write 12. Yeah, so we go ahead and fill it in. Seems like you're 2 times too much or something weird. Or you type something in your calculator weird, Lucy.
I just wrote 63,360,
Just put your label on it.
and I forgot to write equals.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. I would not count that wrong. Okay?
I feel like my other math.
I'm not your other math teachers. Bryson.
Is it okay if instead of writing the number, I literally wrote 5 tomatoes?
I mean, you need the final answer
Yeah,
of the 63,000.
5 times 12 equals 63,360.
Sure, because I know you're silly. Hey, we shouldn't need to do this together. If 5 books cost $78.25, what's the price of each book? $15.65. Guys, what this is, hold up, what this is walking you into understanding what this said is 5B equals 78.25. So you guys are already, like, your brain knows how to do this before you even learn it. If 5 books cost that much, how do I figure out 1 book? Divide. How do I solve an equation that uses multiplication? Inverse. Inverse is division. I agree with you, but you still have to know what to do. Right? It's like, Mason, it's funny, but like you still got to know what to do. The calculator can't think for you. In A, Caden, what could I do to isolate A in A?
Add 3 to both.
Add 3 to both sides. Yeah, we have to How many people did not isolate the variable? And you just like tried to graph it how it sits? You got to get the variable by itself first. So A, hey guys, a lot of us did this wrong because like I looked at them, or you shaded your circles wrong, or you wrote down the wrong numbers. So please listen, I got like 8 minutes left. To show A is less than or equal to 4. And I helped a couple of you on your homework, but some of you just turned in stuff with wrong answers and you decided that was fine. I still write down the number 4. I don't write down 3.1 or 4.1 or any other number. I write down the number I have. I put my boundary point at that number. I'm going to change colors so it's easier to see. Is this boundary point, Zach, is this boundary point shaded or empty? Why?
Because it could be equal to.
It is allowed to be equal to. That tells us shaded in. If you don't have the or equal, you just don't shade it. You don't change the number. You don't like all you do is not shade it. So then, Liam, do I go left or do I go right? Shading wise. Sorry, you're the only Liam in this class now. Yeah.
Okay. And then A is less or equal to 4. So then, wait, what?
So are we shading on the left side or the right side?
The right side. No, wait, the left side.
Yeah, because A is less than.
I never got.
A is allowed to be less than. So think of numbers that are less than 4. 3, 2, 1, 0, right? Like, so less than 4.
1,800.
Yeah. In B, Val, what would you do first for B?
I would try and isolate the variable by minusing 1 from either side.
Absolutely. So we would get 2m is greater than 4. So what would we do now?
I would divide by 2 on each side.
That's because that's right. Annabelle, can you walk me through how I start graphing this? So step 1 is what number am I going to write down?
2.
Yeah, we write down 2. Even though m can't be 2, we write down 2. Annabelle, you want to keep going or may move on?
It's going to be an open circle because there's going to be equal
Absolutely.
to and shade it to the right.
Wonderful. M is only allowed to be bigger. So some of you are still trying to write like 2.1 to make it like a number bigger. Guys, how we show this is the open circle. Right? That's what shows us 2 can't be it. And the final one here, I'll even take volunteers. Anyone got an idea of the, ooh, Sam?
Add x to each side.
Add x to each side because we want to get rid of that negative x. 4x minus 1 less than or equal, bless you, to that. Colin, what would be a good next step? Add 1 to both sides. Make sure that we're thinking about doing it on both sides so we don't forget to actually do the addition. Because the trapdoor here is writing down 3 again. Right? It's not 3, now it's 4. Question or answer? Isaac. Divide by 4. X is less than or equal to. Make sure you do the division. 1. Circle open or shaded? Shaded because it has the or equal. Shading left or right? Left. Because it is less than. You have the next 5 minutes to work on your own revisions. Please make sure your revisions are numbered as you go so I can connect it. And no, you do not have to revise questions you got right. So anything with a check mark does not need revised. Some of you have very little revisions left. When you're done revising it, turn it back in. It should be mastered when you turn it in. So if you're going to come to me and be like, what would this grade have been? Doesn't matter. If you fix what needs fixed, it's mastered. Right? If you really think, like, man, I got everything right the first time, I want, like, to show off that I would have gotten a mastery, sure, you can come bring me your test, we can talk about that. But, like, mainly, like, correcting mistakes is more important than getting stuff right the first time. If you accidentally what? Forgot to do an entire page? That should probably be some broader life goals that we set about, like, observing everything that needs completed. Yeah, I mean, we got like 4 or 5 minutes. I'll pause the video and, like, if you have something, guys, and on revisions, you can talk to each other. So if you have a question wrong, like, let's say Bryson's got a question wrong, and he's like, I really don't think it's wrong. Well, Bryson and Liam are in the same extensions, at least when you're both here. So, like, if Bryson goes to Liam and is like, hey, we took the same test, right? Which, yeah, they're in the same class. He'd be like, what'd you get for 7? Because I think it's this. And you can, like, talk about it and, like, learn from each other. It's, like, really beneficial.